I think how you listen into what kind of music you listen to. It's not, so for example, for myself, I don't listen to just violin music. I listen to violas, to cellos, to pianist. I enjoy listening to Rachmaninoff playing, to Joseph Hoffman. Sometimes now we have internet. If you know names of great performers in the past, you just look up and you'll be amazed. Oh, there's actually recordings of these people. And you need to listen to as many, all types of things, so singers, operas, Schubert lieder, how, I found a recording of Fischer Discow, a live recording of Winterreise, which I treasure because somehow too, it's a live performance, and when the live performance is great, it's something so special. And you listen to chamber music quartets, you learn quartets, you learn symphonies, operas especially. There's a performance Carlos Kleiber doing Carmen with the Vienna State Opera, and just watching him how he conduct them, open the overture, and then the way his gesture, or how he conductor, how he gestured, just watching observing his gesture, you learn so much about music. And sometimes you learn conductors he dares to do rubatos and things, and even just such subtle rubatos, you didn't realize until the second time, the third time you were watching this video. Oh, yeah, in Rosenkavalier, it's like and so the first time when I heard him in New York was Othello, and that was wonderful. But even more memorable was the next time he came to do Rosenkavalier, and just how it's never so static. And that opera, especially the first act, the long segments consist of conversations. But the way just he made that long first act just simply enjoyable. And then came the second act when you hear the violin. And you're sitting there, it's like somebody gave you champagne, you can. And this is what's great about music, or hearing Riccardo Muti for Encore doing Verdi La Forza del Destino. I forgot it's Vienna or Berlin. But I think it was in New York. Anytime Berlin or Vienna came, my wife and I tried to go to this concert. But it was for Encore, so he came out, didn't really. I just turned, and then when it turned out, and he said, bam, 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 and even if you're sitting there up in the balcony in Carnegie Hall, which for me is the best seat because the sound is come up there, and you sit in the seat, so you're like holding on. That's what's great about music, and after the Kleiber second act, if the second intermission you come out and you see everybody kind of moving, and my wife told me that unfortunately we went to Japan once, Tokyo, just especially to see Rosenkavalier with Kleiber and Vienna State Opera, and then towards the end of the long opera, the three rows singing this final. And my wife started to get goosebumps. It's so beautiful. And unfortunately, the next time we went to the Rosenkavalier in New York with a different conductor, it was ruined by Kleiber. We left after first act. I think for me, through the long odyssey of when you start as a child and you grow up slowly and each stage, maybe it's about finding yourself in music, or finding yourself, meaning who you are as a violinist, what you have to express that is personal, especially only for me, not somebody else. And maybe that's the first thing, in search of oneself. And I think I see that probably, I realize for painters too, when years ago went to an exhibition in New York. The exhibition was in MoMA, Modern Arts, about Cubism. And somehow you see, Cubism came about from Cézanne's paintings with his thick brush strokes. And the thick brush strokes would inspire Picasso and Braque to paint Cubism, because they become, the brush stroke become the different facets of one's face and put together. And so that's when you listen to, apropos to what we're talking about, when you listen to everybody, you learn from them, and then you digest, and somehow you hope then you'll find truly yourself, how you want to express the music. And then of course, you also have to think about the composer's intention, and especially when we have the same notation from the time of most of our repertoire goes back to Corelli, Vivaldi, Bach, up to modern times. So that those staff and those notes with the slur and those notation hasn't really changed. But then you realize the meaning of the notation may not be the same throughout all the different periods. And that's like reading, when you're reading the play of Shakespeare, you recognize those are English words. But what do they mean? The expression, how are they meant to be? And that's sometimes a very interesting challenge, especially the older the music, like playing Bach and accompanying. You realize it's not. I need my Baroque book as well. It's not just playing. Even if you play nicely, compared to understanding in Bach's time, it's about something about it's about human emotions or your state of your mood. So compared to the way I learn. But then I find, now I know better that it's heavy heart. And so this thing took years to do. Compared to realize musicians back then reading these notes, they would understand that they had to, so it's like doing a Shakespeare play. When you act, I often tell students, have you heard actors doing to be or not to be? I'm not an actor, so I don't pretend, but it's even just to start to be or not to be, or some people to be or not to be. Every actor has, and some actors just kind of doing it into to be or not to be. This is the question, and then and how you make those words come alive, and our challenge how to make those notes on paper come alive, and so that maybe that's for me is the essence of what we are trying to do in music. I was fortunate to come across two teachers in America who really changed my life. The first teacher was Brothers Earl, who was the professor at Yale at the time. And I was 11 at the time, and he said to me in my first lesson, he said, you're not grown up yet. You're not a kid. You're not a child anymore. So you have to start learning how to think. And he wanted me to come up with fingerings, bowings before the first lesson, and then he would discuss what fingerings. Maybe there are better ways or bowings. And he always said, I want the students to learn how to teach themselves. It's not teachers giving the student information, and they have to learn how to think for themselves. And oftentimes you see him in the master class. There was a studio class every week at Yale, in which I participated with much older students. They were graduate students mostly, and I was high school. And oftentimes, after the student plays, he would ask the student who performs, so what do you think of how you just play? Or he would ask fellow students, would you give him or her some comments to help? And so learning how to think was something that he instilled in me. And then when I went to Mr. Gingold, unfortunately, my first teacher in America then passed away, and in between I studied with Joseph Silverstein just for 1 year, and then for college I went to Indiana University to study with Mr. Gingold. And before I went to him, I did ask people, what is Mr. Gingold like? And they would tell me. I said, I think maybe he's someone I would love to study with, because there's a connection to the older generation of violinists, and especially he was a student at Isai. He had, during his lifetime, he came across Yasha Haivis, Fritz Kreisler, Misha Elman was a good friend of his. With him, it's not so much about discussing what to do. Sometimes it just, my first lesson with him was playing the Zen. And after I played through, he said nothing. He didn't really, he said, He was very nice. He was always very complimentary to the student. And he chatted with me about my past. He wanted to get to know me first. And then after all this talk, chatting, then, okay, let's start again. And then I remember that he started singing this rasping. In French, go. And then whatever he was just gesturing, and you start to play this whole piece, in a different light, with a true character polonaise, a heroic dance, but with all this temperament. And that sometimes a lesson with him was like that, where you don't, or I remember this one, I sometimes repeat this to students, he would say, people no longer make a beautiful downward shift anymore. And he would like for Ray Sonata, he did this, and then he would think, and then this, and then he would apologize for my old-fashioned, the slow, but then you realize you want to, the ideas. You want to make people hear a phrase like that, they sigh with you, and he was total inspiration. So the first teacher was more. It's not. I'm not saying that they exclude other things, but mainly the first teacher instilled in me the habit of how to think constantly for yourself. The second teacher sometimes inspire you to do things that you really never even thought about, and to make the most beautiful. And he would say, meaning Isai, how Isai plays certain things always from the heart or true feeling. So I think these two teachers really was instrumental to me in my study. That's a question where when you go, especially now in my present day. Sometimes you think I should have tried to do certain things differently. For example, my family, everybody all worked hard to help me get a Stradivari violin back then. It's funny, the price of the instrument back then was expensive, but now it's even more. It went up when the price was sky high, but now it went beyond the earth. It went to outer space. But before the Strat, I was playing on the violin, and I felt violin I could make it my own sound. And the Strat, such a beautiful instrument, I could never feel I was totally my voice. But then you think, well, that's life. You can't go back. I was fortunate to have studied in the environment of Yale University and Indiana. Bloomington is a beautiful small town. It's a college town where beautiful campus and great teachers there with Gingoch, Janos Starker, Italian violinist Franco Gulli, Menahem Pressler, Shebak, the great Hungarian pianist. And there was a time where you just walk in the corridor, you run into all these great professors, and they are all quite collegial with each other, and we go to these other teachers' classes and all that. And so when I moved to New York, then I realized, wow, this is a real world now. So I have, you learn those later in your life. When being a musician, you have to be cognizant of besides music, there are other things being a musician you have to deal with. But come to think of it, you are who you are, and even if you can give yourself advice, somehow it doesn't quite work that way. So if there's a next life, maybe maybe certain advice can be applied to the next life. I think people in music, studying music, we tend to be a little bit, we're so focused on violin and playing and music, and many kids come up, they play fantastic, they think, I want to be a concert soloist, I want to do things, but I started to realize late that music is not what, the world doesn't need music to survive. I mean, you need doctors, you even need policemen, others, all kind. For daily life, people don't need music, except unless we can make something so beautiful that it, sometimes it's spiritual, sometimes it's, I wouldn't say escape, but to provide something so beautiful that give people's life meaning. So it's not just all about work and earning money and enjoy good food. There's something else on a different level, and unless we can do that, then so each time if we have a chance to be on the stage to share beautiful music with people in the audience, we have to do our utmost to do that for them. Otherwise, we have no right to be there to be, expecting people to come to listen to us. So maybe to realize being a musician means you have a mission, how to make something so beautiful that people, audience, or society will want to come back to keep. Otherwise, I realized at the age of internet, what we had grown up considering eternal artistic things of paintings or novels or books. Sometimes at this age, today's world, I think people tend to overlook these things even. And anything that requires time in the age of internet, it's a challenge. And even if you want to look at the great painting, you need time to contemplate. And in Italy, especially, if you see sometimes these great paintings and or great sculpture, you do need time just to take in my teaching studio there's a picture, a photo of a sculpture of soon to be a kid, a child, but very serene, but soon to be the child simply to be deep in thought. Sometimes it's just looking at that, that's something so wonderful. But how do we get people to do that, or to come to the concert to sit there for 2 hours, or opera, Wagner operas for 4 or 5 hours, and yet, and same thing, trying to convince young people to read War and Peace, or all those things. But we can only, I think we may not be able to fix the world, but we can do our part whenever we can to serve art, the beautiful art form we enjoyed playing this beautiful instrument. No, I think simply that we can't compete with modern fashion, modern fad, but we can. Maybe that's what we are good in. It's to provide something so different, and to hopefully the people that never heard classical music and they come in for the first time, they hope they can be in awe of the music or the touch or the sometimes listen to Beethoven's symphonies. I remember in Carnegie Hall listening to Berlin or Vienna Philharmonic, and when they played Beethoven or Brahms symphony, you walk out of the concert hall and you kind of think naturally you hold your head high and the music gives you courage to keep going forward. And after all, we are living in a time where the world seems to be in a situation we're not sure where it's heading, and sometimes global climate warming. Never mind COVID. I think COVID was it made such a huge impact all over the world. But once you get past the COVID, then we still have to face all kinds of things, and I think music and art hopefully provide something besides materialistic comfort, which I think humanity needs, something spiritual, something to treasure what's important about what we have in life. As a violin student, I was fascinated by the sound of the violin, and when I was between the age of 5 and 11, I didn't know much. You just listen to whatever the beautiful recording they say with Tchaikovsky, violin concerto. I remember it was Christian Ferraz playing and then when I left Taiwan at the age of 11 to study abroad, I was studying with a teacher at Yale University, professor there. He taught me privately, and even living in his home. And that's when I discovered there were recordings of violinists that I didn't know existed. Recording the names that I know, Elisabeth, Isai, and others. And when I first heard these recordings, I think was surprised by their singing quality. And violinists like Misha Elman, was Chrysler, and I was quite amazed to hear the early recordings of Heifetz. Back in those days, before CD came about, it's sometimes not easy to find LPs of early recording. And when CD technology came in the 1980s, you start to get recordings of famous names that you didn't know the recordings existed of their singing or their playing. And now even with internet technology, it's even better. So, and the first big name in so-called modern history, modern meaning from the time of when recording technology started, early recording. One of the first name was Caruso, Enrico Caruso. He was a big star, a household name back in those days. Of course, the recording now, you hear, you still hear all the noise from the early recordings, and you feel like you're hearing someone singing through long, times, like a little bit of time travel back to early 20th century. But nevertheless, you hear such emotional intensity, where it's a clown in the opera, Pagliacci, and it's a clown character, and yet clowns are sometimes tragic people come, and of course, everybody knows this is opera about him losing his lover who's about to run off with somebody else, and this love and hate and all this extreme emotion, and it dawned on me, this is the kind of piece where if you were playing Zigan, okay, not only here, but in the middle part, from here, then I'm there's a certain feeling of the desperation and going to the edge of the cliff, and somehow you make this connection of how to trying to have that human emotion on the violin. And then just for comparison, there's another famous singer back in the early 20th century by the name of Beniamino Gigli. And when you listen to that, it's a different sound.
Una furtiva lacrimo negli occhi suoi spuntò. Quella festa
Italian called the dolce, the sweet quality in the sound. And it's can I try to do that in the violin? You hear a certain sound, and then over the years I realized, how painters, I hear stories of how Picasso in his young days would go to a museum and try to copy old master. And maybe we do something with similar, we hear certain sound and we try to make that happen, our instrument. Just one more example of a female singer. This singer nobody really knows anymore, and I learned it from my, not only from my old teacher, Mr. Gingold, and also from Aldo Parasol, the cello teacher at Yale.
Una mancia lecca già
Her name is Conchita Supervia. She was a mezzo-soprano, but unfortunately died quite early in 1930s. This is the most unusual voice. But not just the voice, but you hear how she sings. It's not, I mean, we do have violin transcription or cello transcription of this piece, but it's not, if we just play as written. But when you listen to this, you hear this, the Spanish fiery. You hear something and you try right now. And this is what I sometimes enjoy about playing the violin and practicing. You can spend time wanting to hear. You keep trying to do something, or the Julie's instinctively somehow you want to try to duplicate that, and then to make that part of your own vehicle playing the violin. Playing the violin sometimes it's all about how we do our motion and technically with our fingers and with the instrument. But then you always have to remember we are trying to convey human emotion.